Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. We're going to begin this hour with the record-breaking temperatures across the country. You might be feeling them. More than 160 million people are under heat alerts, setting the stage for what could be the hottest 4th of July in a decade.
Here in the Northeast, major cities like Boston and New York have already declared heat emergencies. They are scrambling to set up cooling centers to protect people from the brutal summer sun. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman will have your forecast in a moment. But first, NBC's Sam Brock is in New York City with the latest. Sam, good morning.
Specifically, Mayor Mamdani saying that the heat we're about to see in the next couple of days, which could easily approach triple digits, if not exceed it, is some of the most intense New York has experienced in years. They've opened up somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 cooling centers. Mayor Mamdani says that the New York City Health Department is actually opening its doors, its facilities for the first time as cooling centers. You have somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 cool vans, they're calling it, cooling out on location vans. This is the first time those have been rolled out in New York City as well. So they're trying to tackle this from a number of different angles. Mayor Mamdani also signing an executive order into effect last week to try to protect workers who are exposed outside to the unbearable heat. Philadelphia, another example of an administration right now that's trying to move on the fly. They have shortened their July 4th parade route from 2.5 miles all the way down to 1 mile. That is on account of trying to just reduce exposure as families are out and enjoying the holidays. You also have a situation where across the country, about half the people that live in the United States, roughly 160 million, are under a heat alert. And that comes with the fact that there's wildfires burning across the U.S. The largest one right now has been following is the Cottonwood Fire out in Utah. That's at 94,000 acres and starting to get some handle on a containment. It's burned somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 structures. But if you look across the entire country, it's more than 50 fires, nearly 500,000 acres that are burning. And we are just now starting in the fire season. So some pretty alarming statistics there. And I will leave you with one thing from New York City, which is that Central Park, Joe and Savannah, has not recorded a triple-digit temperature since 2012. But it seems extremely likely, if not probable, that streak is going to be snapped later this week. That's the latest here from Manhattan's West Side. Let me send it back to you guys.
All right, Sam, thank you.
Let's get a closer look at these scorching temps with our morning news now weather.
And meteorologist Angie Lastman joined us now to just read a lot of high numbers on a map, just city after city after city.
On a big red, orange, pink map.
A lot of red on the map here going through the next couple of days, guys. You got that right. We've got 160 million people under these heat alerts. This, of course, is how you're going to see this map for the extended period. Unfortunately, from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes and out towards the East Coast, a lot of folks included in that. And here's why. You've heard these two words, heat dome. That's what's kind of happening. And if you think of it like a pot on a stove, basically all of that heat is trapped under the lid, and we are under the lid. So that is what's happening. All of that hot air is kind of stuck at the surface, and it's going to remain there here for the extended period. On top of that, because of the circulation around this high pressure, we start to drag in some of that Gulf moisture, and it really kind of steers all of that humidity right into parts of the country that are under those heat alerts. So that's the kind of why of what's happening. Here is what we're going to see. 95 degrees today in Louisville, but notice, remember I said that humidity, it's going to feel like 107 degrees there. And this is kind of the story no matter where you look on this map. 100 plus feels like temperatures from Chicago to Kansas City to Little Rock to New Orleans, out towards Columbia, even as far north as Boston, you will feel like 102 at the warmest point of the day today. Of course, telling folks to take those breaks, find the AC, make sure that you're checking on people is going to be the best advice moving forward. But this even goes for tomorrow, even warmer in Louisville, 110 for the feels like there, and Memphis, 101 for Atlanta. New York City, 111 is what it'll feel like, with a high, an actual high of 102 degrees for tomorrow. We'll likely see a whole lot of records broken, daily records, I should say, across much of this region. And even as we get into the weekend, we're going to start to see some relief. I say some because we go from 102 on Friday in New York to 91 on Sunday. That 91 is going to feel a whole lot better. Similar story in Washington, D.C. It's still going to be very summer-like. It's still going to be above normal in a lot of these spots, but we'll at least get below that 100-degree mark for our actual temperatures. And in some spots, we'll see those feels-like temperatures come down to the mid-90s as well. New York City, Washington, D.C., you kind of flirt with those triple digits for the heat index by the time Sunday rolls around. 110 is what it'll feel like on Friday. So a lot of heat, a lot of humidity for folks to deal with. And on top of that, we've got some of these thunderstorms that are continuing. We should see these expire here here shortly. And then we've got the kind of another round where we could see about 17 million people across parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes get in on some of those stronger storms. Guys, we know with all this heat and moisture that it is not hard for us to see those afternoon thunderstorm chances, and that's what we're going to see across this region.
When you wish the feels like was just 102, like the temperature, you know you're in trouble, right?
No kidding.
That's relief. I like
there
to call
you go,
it.
relief. All right, thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. From the White House to Congress this morning, Washington still digesting some major end-of-term rulings by the Supreme Court. In one of the most highly anticipated decisions of the year, the court yesterday struck down President Trump's executive order attempting to limit birthright citizenship.
In a 6-3 decision, the deeply divided court found that Mr. Trump's order violated the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Responding to the decision, the president called on Congress to act and pass a law banning birthright citizenship. Take a listen to how some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are reacting to the decision.
The Constitution couldn't say it more clearly. If you are born in the United States, you are a citizen. Period. It doesn't get more clear than that.
I will say I'm very disappointed in that outcome. I think it subjects the country to serious challenges going forward, and we'll have to deal with it as a Congress.
NBC News senior Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley joins us now to talk about this and some of the other rulings we got yesterday. Lawrence, good morning. So help us understand why the Supreme Court in the end did overturn President Trump's order banning birthright citizenship. Was this always just going to be a difficult argument for the president to win, considering the 14th Amendment?
Morning, guys. Yeah, if you recall, back in President Trump's first term, he floated this idea about curbing birthright citizenship, and it was widely panned by Republicans, Democrats, legal scholars on left and right, and it was considered to be a really fringe kind of legal theory that had no legs. And yet, in yesterday's ruling, it actually got 4 votes on the court that the 14th Amendment does not bar President Trump or the government from trying to limit birthright citizenship. So you can see how, even though he lost this case, there has been a kind of moving of the debate, right, both in scholarly circles and in political circles. And so it ended up being quite a close run thing that surprised quite a lot of people when the ruling came out, because based on the oral arguments and all the vibes kind of going into this ruling, it was probably everyone was thinking it was going to be a pretty lopsided decision and could even be unanimous. And that was clearly not what happened.
Lawrence, I do want to talk about one of the other big decisions we got yesterday. The court did hand conservatives a win on a different cultural flashpoint here. The justices upheld state bans on transgender athletes in girls and women's sports. Walk us through what we know about this decision, how it was split, and the reaction here.
So this was a case where the court was divided on ideological lines 6-3 with the conservative in the majority. The court allowed states to restrict participation of transgender girls and women in girls and women's sports. It was going to affect, at least half the states that already have bans like this in place. So it's quite a significant ruling. One thing to note, though, is that it doesn't affect states that allow for that type of participation. The court specifically did not address whether Title IX, the federal law that bars discrimination in education, in sports, they said they're not deciding whether that bars transgender athletes from participating. So there's some legal issues that have been left unresolved. The Trump administration has already sued California to try and stop that from happening. So there's going to be more cases coming up on this issue. But for now, states that want to ban it can do so.
Lawrence, we are also getting a preview of what's to come in the court's next term. That starts in October. It'll come quickly. What do we know about what's already on the docket?
Yeah, so the court's already adding cases to hear in the new term that starts in October. They just took up yesterday a challenge to laws in certain states that ban so-called assault weapons like the AR-15 or semi-automatic rifle that's being used in mass shootings and is also very popular among gun enthusiasts. That could be a very significant ruling. One of the cases is from Connecticut, which is where the Sandy Hook shooting took place, where the law was enacted in the aftermath of that shooting. The court's also going to be hearing a big case on climate change, about lawsuits trying to sue oil companies for their role in climate change, or alleged role in climate change. And the court's also hearing a big elections case about a law in Arizona that requires additional proof of citizenship before people can register to vote. So a lot of hot topics coming up again in the next term.
We'll be keeping you busy in the next year. All right, Lawrence Hurley, busy day, busy term this past year. Thanks for joining us.
Let's get more reaction from Washington with NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good to see you. So, as we mentioned earlier, we go back to birthright citizenship. The president is calling on Congress to act to try to pass a law in that regard. How likely would that be?
Not very, Savannah, at least not in the short term. The Congress is having a lot of difficulty getting the very basic things done. They don't have a lot more time before the midterms. They're out for the next, 10 days or so. Then they have time out in August. It's of course always possible that they could try to stick a law into, into another piece of legislation, but it doesn't look like the votes are going to be there for that in Congress. And of course, what the Supreme Court has said as recently as yesterday is that, the birthright citizenship is constitutional. So even as Lawrence was pointing out, that the debate has moved in the direction of the hardliners in the Trump administration, it has not moved so far as to convince the Supreme Court that the Constitution says something different than it does.
John, let's get to some other political news. President Trump did release a financial disclosure form yesterday. It listed more than $1 billion in crypto earnings. What more are we learning about the president's income, and just how does it stack up against his predecessors?
Yeah, I think what we're learning is it'd be really nice to get a piece of that, right? I mean, can I be the agent that gets 2-3%? Basically, what we've learned about the president's finances is that the White House has been very good to him, that he has increased his wealth significantly, not just through those crypto ventures, but through a variety of other things. And this is something, in talking to experts on the presidency, really we're looking at something that is unprecedented in terms of not only Trump's personal wealth, the level of his personal wealth while he's president, but also his ability to leverage his office, basically the ability to become so much wealthier while he is president, despite having his influence over so many critical public policy decisions.
John, also, we do want to ask you, we had an election night. We're following the results of Colorado's Democratic primaries. There are incumbents battling progressive challengers, some familiar names in some of these races. Walk us through the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple really big ones in Colorado. Number one, you've got Senator Michael Bennet was running for governor and was defeated in the primary there. He doesn't lose his Senate seat, but I think that'll immediately raise the question. He was beaten by Phil Weiser, who's a state attorney general. I think it immediately raises the question of whether Bennett is vulnerable, and it would seem so in his next re-election run for Senate. And then the other one that I think worth paying attention to, another upstart, relatively unknown, Democratic socialist leaning candidate beat Diana DeGette, the long-serving, almost 3 decades serving congresswoman from Denver, who was, liberal on some issues, on a lot of issues, pretty liberal, but also kind of identified with the moderate wing in the House Democratic Caucus. And for those old enough to remember, there's a little bit of an echo here of the race where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won in 2018 against Joe Crowley, who was the Democratic caucus chairman at the time, to get not holding a rank quite that high, but always sort of in the leadership circle in Democratic politics in the House. We're watching history repeat itself a little bit, and we're watching really the progressive wing in the Democratic Party rise up in some of these upset elections.
All right, John Allen, thank you so much.
Staying on politics, New Jersey Republican Congressman Tom Kean made his return to Congress. He was out of the public eye and away from the Capitol for nearly 4 months. Tuesday, in the House chamber, he revealed he was diagnosed with depression. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has more.
Representative Tom Kean returning to Congress after an initially unexplained months-long absence from the public eye, revealing he was treated for depression.
It is physical. It is emotional. And until you experience it yourself, it is difficult to fully understand how powerful this illness can be. The doctors recommended that I remain in the hospital to address my illness.
The Republican congressman from New Jersey, back in the House of Representatives for the first time since March 5th.
Today, I stand before you healthier, stronger, and excited to return to the work that I love.
During his time away, Kaine missed more than 140 votes in the chamber. His disappearance sparked months of speculation.
He's just been gone.
Not answering phone calls or emails from his constituents.
I think there's a good amount of privacy that people are allowed to have, whether they're in office or not.
Kaine is not the first congressperson to publicly reveal a struggle with depression. U.S. Senator John Fetterman gained national attention when he checked himself into Walter Reed National Military Medical Center to be treated for depression in February of 2023, which his office publicly announced within days of his starting treatment.
It's a real thing, and something is wrong with you, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
Kaine did not discuss his diagnosis or remarks after the speech. He's up for re-election this November.
I think Tom gets reelected easily this fall, and he'll be back, and he'll be back in full health.
His opponent, Democrat Rebecca Bennett, saying in a statement, "I am relieved that Congressman Tom Kaine Jr. is well and continue to wish him good health. But let's be clear, I got into this race because Tom Kaine Jr. was failing our community long before this absence."
Kaine represents a swing district that's expected to be highly competitive this fall. It could shape the balance of power. He already has President Trump's endorsement. He will face off against Rebecca Bennett, a Democrat who's a former Navy helicopter pilot.
Thank you, Ryan.
Nearly a week after twin earthquakes rocked the country, rescue efforts in Venezuela are becoming more desperate this morning. More than 50,000 people are still missing, according to a website created by volunteers helping families search for loved ones. Now, as hopes of finding more survivors fade, relief agencies warn the humanitarian crisis could last for years. Telemundo anchor Julio Vaquero is in Caracas with the latest. Julio, good morning.
Good morning. The situation is getting worse and worse here in Venezuela. Authorities are talking about more than 2,000 people who have died and more than 10,000 people who are injured. But again, this is official information, and everybody here agrees that the situation is much worse. Some independent registries talk about more than 50,000 people who have been unaccounted for. So the uncertainty in many families is palpable. The desperation to find their loved ones. Behind me you can see what was an apartment building that's now just a mountain of rubble and debris, and you can see the efforts of people trying to go back to normality, trying to clean up the area, trying to find bodies, and also maybe rescue people, because yes, this is the 7th day after the earthquakes, but some people have been rescued just yesterday, so hope is still there. Rescue teams are working from across the world. From more than 20 countries, teams have arrived to Venezuela to try and help these efforts to find people alive in the middle of the debris and the rubble. And of course, help is needed. The worst number is probably the number of people who have lost their homes. More than 13,000 people who don't have where to spend the night. Some of them, of course, are going with family members, others with friends, but we've seen a lot of people sleeping on the streets and on camps, just waiting for help to arrive. And a lot of them just deciding to stay next to the buildings that have collapsed because they know that their loved ones are trapped there in the debris, in the rubble. According to the United Nations, around 2 million people need humanitarian help desperately here in Venezuela after these 2 earthquakes. So again, the situation just getting worse and worse 1 week after the earthquakes. Savannah, Joe.
All right, Julio Vaquero, just heartbreaking. Thank you.
Officials in Florida are releasing new details about a deadly alligator attack near Orlando. It is the 3rd serious alligator attack in the area in just the last week. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz reports on the desperate 911 calls made in the moments after the attack and a warning. The audio is difficult to hear.
Come on! Come on! Come on! We're hearing the urgent 911 call after a woman was attacked and killed by a massive alligator in Central Florida.
He's leaving. Come on!
Officials identifying the victim as 31-year-old Brittany Clark, who authorities say was hiking at a state park outside Orlando with her boyfriend and best friend Sunday when they stopped to swim and cool off in a shallow river about 3 feet deep. It was then that the massive alligator struck, her friends frantically calling 911.
Somebody got bit by a gator.
Bad, real bad. Please hurry. Please hurry. She's losing a lot of breath.
Over the next 10 minutes, the operator stays on the phone as Clark screams out in pain while her friends try to move her to safety.
I can't move. No, it's okay. We're good.
No, we're not.
And how bad is the bite? Horrible. Her arm is dislocated. Almost like dislocated. Both her arms. Both her arms are off, like basically.
As they wait for help, you can hear the increasing desperation. Eventually, first responders arrive, but sadly, the injury's too great. Officials say Clark died on her way to the hospital.
And Brittany's boyfriend sent us a statement saying she was an amazing, kind, and caring person who loved being out on the water. He says never in a million years could he have expected this nightmare. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thank you so much.
All right, well, NASA is planning a daring $30 million mission to save an orbiting telescope from falling back to Earth.
The Swift Observatory telescope is slowly dropping out of orbit, could eventually just burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. Don't worry, though, help is on the way. NASA is planning to launch a 3-armed spacecraft. It's called Link, to boost it into a higher orbit, saving it from destruction.
For more on this, let's bring in astronomer and space scientist Dr. Emily Rice. Dr. Rice, good morning. We always love when you join us. So let's just start by what this telescope is. What does it do? What's its job up there right now?
Yeah, Swift is a very, very cool telescope. So it was launched in 2004, and its main objective is detecting and studying gamma ray bursts, which are these still very mysterious explosions. They're some of the most energetic explosions in the entire universe, and they help us understand kind of the very, very early universe, the first stars, and how massive stars explode, how compact objects spiral in and collapse. These types of explosions were only detected for the first time a few decades ago, and we still don't really understand them. And this is the main observatory for detecting them and then following up on them. And so it's really, really important that we keep this observatory active.
So let's talk about the rescue here, this Link spacecraft. It's about the size of a refrigerator, but not filled with beer. It was supposed to launch this morning. That was scrubbed for the second day in a row because of weather. It's being actually launched on a Pegasus rocket. You see it there. Talk about how this is different from other launch systems we typically see. And is this a tricky mission?
Yeah, this is a really, really cool mission. So this is it's really a kind of a target opportunity for NASA. The telescope has always been kind of slowly sinking a little bit into the atmosphere, but it got a lot worse at the end of 2024. And they realized that if they didn't boost the orbit a little bit, it wasn't going to last very much longer, and they would have to burn up into the atmosphere. And so NASA put out a call and said, hey, does anybody want to take on this challenge? And this great startup, we've been thinking about doing robotic servicing of space telescopes for a little while. It hasn't been done before. It was, of course, key for missions like the Hubble Space Telescope. This is going to be really fun because it's not hugely complicated. It's literally just going to get pushed into a slightly higher orbit, but it's the first time that this will be done robotically. It's a lot cheaper to do it from an airplane, and luckily this Pegasus rocket was hanging around, and Northrop Grumman contributed it to the mission. It's going to be really, really cool to see if this gets pulled off.
All right, well, cheaper still means NASA spending $30 million to save this telescope that's more than 2 decades old. Do you think it's worth it?
Absolutely. So this mission, on the whole, was hundreds of millions of dollars. It's still got a lot of lifetime left in it. This is the only space telescope that can swiftly detect and move to follow up on these gamma ray bursts. In the grand scheme of things, I think Taylor Swift's wedding is going to cost almost as much as this servicing mission. So, maybe she wants to go on a space honeymoon or something like that.
And that, too, will be out of this orbit. All right, so are there any other telescopes, say like the Hubble, that are someday going to maybe need to be rescued, too? Is this a thing?
Yeah, hopefully it will be. So we don't really have a way to do it with humans right now, but robotically there's a lot more possibilities, especially for the telescopes that are so much further away. Things like the James Webb Space Telescope that's 1 million miles away. We're not capable of sending humans that far yet. But in the next decade or 2 decades, we could be able to send robotic spacecrafts out there to repair or to refuel these telescopes, and that would make them last a lot longer. That would be really, really exciting if we can develop this technology and refurbish these missions like that.
Dr. Emily Rice, it's so much fun when you're here. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's a cool one.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.